Hola estudiantes. Here are your notes for your interactive notebook. These notes are for the present tense AR verb conjugation. This page should be on page 52, and then you have another page, show you real quick, which should be on page 51. I'll go back to this page because before we start the video lesson, those of you who need to highlight, I want you to pause the video and highlight as needed. I will move it up so you can see the bottom part, and then after you have highlighted, we will start the video lesson. Now move it up just a little bit, and I will also zoom in. Real quick, I'll show you the other side. This page we will be filling out together in class, so you won't have to worry about that for now unless you would like to try it on your own before you come to class. Okay, one last thing I'd like to show you before we start the video lesson. Like I said, this video is going to teach you how to conjugate present tense AR verbs, and you are going to see something called a conjugation chart in the video lesson. You actually have the same thing here. This is conjugating el verbo hablar, so you're conjugating hablar, to speak here. But also, if you go to the next page, I also gave you these notes. This should be page 54. This is a conjugation chart as well, so you have a bigger one that is a little bit more in depth. So when I ask you to try this out on your own for the practice part, you can use these notes, or you can feel free to write down the conjugation chart on a piece of paper if you feel better about doing that. Just one small thing you need to fix here is the ustedes. The S got deleted, so make sure you write in UDS period, because these two are not the same. This page is to help you study, because when you have your quiz or test on this, you will need to know this entire chart and be able to fill it out. So you should not be filling this chart out at all. It should remain blank for study purposes, so you can test yourself and see what goes in this box and here and be able to answer these questions. Okay, so I'll just leave it steady for another moment so everyone has a chance to highlight. I'll show you this page one more time. Okay, so let's learn how to conjugate present tense AR verbs.
Hola estudiantes, this is Mrs. Hirschman, and today's lesson is going to be how you conjugate present tense AR verbs. The first thing we need to review before I teach you how to do that is what infinitives are, which we learned a few chapters back. Infinitives in Spanish, we talked about, are the most basic form of a verb, and they have three endings in Spanish: AR, ER, and IR. Now, infinitives are verbs, and they are simply just the action, so no one is doing the action yet. It's just purely the action. For example, hablar, AR verb; correr, ER verb or infinitive; and escribir, an IR infinitive, to write, to run, and to talk. What we're going to learn today is to not just have the action, but also to attach the subject to the infinitive. And that is what conjugation is. In Spanish, there are two easy steps in how you conjugate a present tense AR verb. As I already discussed, we know that there are three different types of verbs in Spanish, or infinitives. They are the AR, the ER, and the IR. For this lesson and for this chapter, we are only going to focus on the AR verbs just so you can get the hang of how conjugation works first. The first step in how you conjugate a present tense AR verb is you first have to figure out which infinitive or verb you would like to use. Once you have figured that out, then we are going to take off this infinitive ending. In this case, it is the AR. And what we are going to have left is called the stem. This is called the stem of the word. The second step in conjugation is we are going to attach one of these 6 endings to the end of this stem to indicate who is doing the action. Each one of these boxes represents a pronoun, just like we spoke about in the last lesson. Each box represents that same designated pronoun. So I, you, he, she, you formal, we, they, you all in Spain, they and you all everywhere else in Spanish-speaking world, or formal, you all. Now, for my example, I'm going to be the subject. I would like to say, I speak Spanish. Now I need to remember that the conjugation ending for the I form is yo, and the ending is o. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this ending, this conjugation ending, to my stem to create this word, hablo, which means all in one word, I speak. Now I would like to say I speak Spanish, so I'm going to finish the sentence with español. Hablo español. So now I have said I speak Spanish. Now one thing I could say if I wanted to, I could say yo hablo español, which is I speak Spanish. But because the pronoun is really already built into the word, it's really not necessary. I don't have to say yo hablo español all the time. Really, the pronoun in this case is just used for clarification and for emphasis. But if you would like to use it, and if it helps you remember what the subject is and how to conjugate the verb, then that is completely fine. Y felicidades, that's conjugation. You have just learned how to conjugate your first verb. Here is the same conjugation chart that you saw in the last lesson, the pronouns lesson. And now I have attached all of the conjugation endings for present tense AR verbs. So like we just discussed, the yo ends with o. So if I wanted to say I speak like I did in the last board, I would say hablo. Tú, the ending is as, which would be tú hablas. Excuse me. And then you have the singular box, which represents él, ella, and usted. Anytime you are going to refer to a singular person, you are going to use this box right here. So if you wanted to say he speaks or he talks, you're going to take off the AR and then add the A for habla. Or you could say él habla, he speaks. But habla also means she speaks. Ella habla. And then also for usted habla, you formally speak. So all these three pronouns have the same conjugation ending. Makes it a little simple. Then up here for nosotros and nosotras, the ending is amos. So you're going to, if you want to say we speak, you would say hablamos. Vosotros and vosotras, we spoke about last time, only is used in Spain. This would be in the case that you are in Spain, you're talking to a group of friends, and you want to say, you all speak English or whatever you want them to say. You would say habláis, and you always have to include that accent mark. It's very important. Habláis. Then this box, very similar to this one, is not singular but plural, and it represents the same ending for all of these. So ellos and ellas, they, masculine and feminine, and then ustedes, which is you all. Remember that ustedes is the plural form of usted, or tú everywhere else in the Spanish-speaking world. So this one is exactly the same as this one, except you're not in Spain when you're saying it. So if you wanted to say they speak, you would take off the AR ending and say hablan. And then you all speak everywhere else in the Spanish-speaking world, you would also say hablan. That means the same thing. This plural box is going to describe any plural subject. So this ending is always going to be the plural ending, and this ending, is always going to be the singular ending. And I spoke briefly about how important and helpful that will be when we come to conjugation. And so now here we are. So the sooner you learn what each ending represents and what each box represents, conjugation will be a lot easier for you. Alright, so we have some ejemplos. that we're going to do together. Now, what this is, I have sentences, 8 sentences, and I want you to look at this verb at the end of the sentence, and we are going to take this verb and conjugate it in the blank according to the subject, and I have underlined all of the subjects for you. Now, while you're thinking about this, remember, think about the conjugation chart. You can look at it in your notes, you can visualize it in your head, whatever is most helpful, and think about which box each subject would belong to. Alright, so the first one is tú, and we're going to conjugate estudiar for the tú form. So remember, the first thing we do is we take off the AR ending, and we are going to think about which ending we need to put in there. So for this case, it would be estudias. Estudias. Because it's tú. So now we have tú estudias hoy. You study today. María y yo. And we're going to conjugate necesitar. Well, María y yo, that pronoun would be nosotros or nosotras if you are a girl. And so then the nosotros, nosotras ending is amos. So we're going to take necesitar, take off the AR ending, and we're going to add amos. Necesitamos. Number 3 can be a little tricky. ¿Quién means who, and how you know which conjugation ending to go with is that who, we don't know who we're talking about, not specifically any pronoun, but we do know that it's singular. So we're going to go with the singular box. That's why in the previous lesson I told you that knowing which box is singular and which box is plural is going to be very helpful for you when you learn conjugation. And in this case, this is one of those cases. So we don't know who it is, but we do know that it's singular, and so we're going to go with the singular ending, which is a. So we're going to look at enseñar and cross off the AR ending, and then go ahead and conjugate the verb. Enseña, which is the singular conjugation. Now we have ¿Quién enseña la clase? Who teaches the class? Mi amiga y tú blank mucho, and we want to say hablar. So my friend and you. So it would be helpful to think, okay, which pronoun would replace mi amiga y tú? There's actually 2 answers here. If you were in Spain, it would be vosotros or vosotras, depending on the gender of this person here. If you were somewhere else in the Spanish-speaking world, then you would go with ustedes. So then you can, that tells you which box to conjugate for. And first, let's just pretend that we are in Spain. So we're going to take hablar, and we're going to take off the AR ending, and then the vosotros or vosotras conjugation ending is habláis, remembering the accent mark. But if we were in another Spanish-speaking country, we would use the ustedes ending, which would be hablan. Okay, now next one, mis amigos blank deportes, practicar. So we want to say, my friends practice sports. Now my friends we know is a plural subject. We're going to go with the plural box. And then go ahead and take off our AR and conjugate. So, practican. Mis amigos practican deportes. My friends practice sports. Yo, which is probably the easiest one to find the correct answer because you're just talking about yourself and there's only one possibility. So, yo blank en la escuela, trabajar. So we're going to take trabajar, take off the AR ending, and conjugate for the yo form, which is trabajo. Yo trabajo en la escuela. I work in the school. ¿Quiénes? Now, if this looks similar to this one, it is because this one is singular and this one is just the plural version of who. So just like this one, we didn't know who we were talking about, but we did know it was singular. This one is the same way. We don't know who the subject is, and we don't know who we're talking about, but we do know that it's multiple people. So that tells us right away that we're going to conjugate for the plural form. ¿Quiénes tocar la guitarra. So we want to ask who all is playing the guitar. So the first thing we do, remember, is take off the AR. And we're going to conjugate for the plural form, which is the AN. So, ¿quiénes tocan la guitarra? Who plays the guitar? Lastly, el gato. Now, this we haven't learned. Some of you may know that el gato is a cat. And that doesn't fall specifically in any one designated pronoun that we have learned. But we do know that it's one cat. So we're going to use the singular box in singular conjugation form. El gato blank tiempo conmigo. So I want to say the cat pasar spends time conmigo, with me. So we're going to take pasar, take off the AR, and then conjugate for the singular form, which is the a ending. El gato pasa tiempo conmigo. The cat spends time with me. Alright, so now what I want you to do is on your piece of paper, I would like you to try these on your own. Vamos a practicar. So we're going to take, I want you to take everything that I just taught you. You may use your notes and pause this and then conjugate these verbs right here on the end in these blanks just like we did together. So go ahead, pause right now, and then we come back, you'll see if you got the right answer. Okay, let's see how you did. Miguel, dibujar. This should be dibuja. Yo, escuchar. Take off these ARs. Escucho. Isabel y yo. Take off the AR. Will be hablamos inglés. Tú, nadar, which would be nadas. Paco y tú, practicar. You have two possibilities here. Practicáis or practican. Señor Martínez, enseñar. Take off the AR. Enseña. Señor Martínez, enseña la clase. El perro, which if you are not sure, I should have told you this before. This is a dog. Probably a lot of you already knew that though. El perro baila. Because we know that it's one dog, so we go with the singular version. Baila con el gato. Y quiénes was the plural form of who, so we don't know who it is, but we do know this plural. Esquiar, take that off, and conjugate for the plural form, esquian. Okay, and that's conjugation. Remember, whatever questions that you have, anything that you found confusing and you're not quite sure about, write it down for me and I will answer your questions in class. Alright, so now what I want you to do is on your piece of paper, I would like you to try these on your own. Vamos a practicar. So we're going to take, I want you to take everything that I just taught you. You may use your notes and pause this and then conjugate these verbs right here on the end in these blanks just like we did together. So go ahead, pause right now, and then we come back, you'll see if you got the right answer. Okay, let's see how you did. Miguel, dibujar. This should be dibuja. Yo, escuchar. Take off these ARs. Escucho. Isabel y yo. Take off the AR. Will be hablamos inglés. Tú, nadar, which would be nadas. Paco y tú practicar. You have two possibilities here. Practicáis or practican. Señor Martínez, enseñar. Take off the AR. Enseña. Señor Martínez enseña la clase. El perro, which if you are not sure, I should have told you this before. This is a dog. Probably a lot of you already knew that though. El perro baila, because we know that it's one dog, so we go with the singular version. Baila con el gato. Y quiénes was the plural form of who, so we don't know who it is, but we do know this plural. Esquiar, take that off, and conjugate for the plural form, esquian. Okay, and that's conjugation. And if you remember, if you have any questions for me, and if there's anything you're not quite sure about, then please write that question down and I will answer your question in class. Gracias.